and the creativity of the filmmaking, the creativity of the animation, but also the craftspersonship.
Say yes.
You seem to be drawn, and I loved it, because one of the things I think about you, Ian, is your curiosity. That when we think about the arts and the sciences, that sense of awe and wonder, and it seems to come through so much of your work, and just your directorial eye in this. I mentioned it before, but the lunar moth, that the Carpenter had the photo of the lunar moth, these kind of small things, small, beautiful, delightful things that people notice, that don't notice about the world, and then made it into your film, that don't go along the track of, oh, this is a film with a story or an issue and a plot, and we put things in that are gonna, lubricate the track of those. That this film could have gone anywhere, and in fact went everywhere, is one of the great delights. I can't remember what I was thinking when I started that sentence, but I love it.
I liked it. It was a great sentence.
What's in the arc now, by the way?
There's some mice in the arc now.
Right.
Well, in this past summer, we turned it into a tiny movie theater with 20 seats, and we invited people on Saturday nights, 20 people, to come and watch the movie in the arc. And it was strange and a little magical, because you sort of see, I would creepily watch everybody as they were watching the film, and over the course of the film they would start to kind of see that this, of course, structure that they were in was what the movie was about. And I think I think it is sort of our hope as the filmmakers, maybe I can suggest that that every film is to some extent a vessel that carries you from where you were to some new place.
Yes.
And I think, I did get the sense that for everybody who was there, that place that they arrived at was different.
I can tell you we've had a lot of conversations with my brother's wife about how in the world we're going to get his dead body into the Mississippi, and it's not pretty, but we're committed. Ian, can I ask you, because your writing in the voiceover it's just so delicate and light moving through this film, and I'm just kind of I experienced the process of us coming up, it being relaxed, doing some conversations, moving around. I understand what happened in that part of the process, and I understand that you had the chronology of building the arc as your backbone, but I'm curious, could you talk to us of are you going back and forth to the editing room in the middle of filming? Did you wait to edit? Can you just talk us through the way you function creatively? Because I think you got to an amazing place on so many levels, and I'm curious of how.
Did you just fire me as moderator?
No, I just took over.
Okay. It was a great question, though. I'll let you have
It's lively at our house.
It's not clear who can fire you. Yeah. Actually, one of the things that I loved about, coincidentally, one of the things I loved about our initial conversation about this film and about was your filmmaking process, and how what you talked about on Dick Johnson Is Dead being a very iterative process that drove the Netflix execs crazy, because you were like, well, I don't know what the whole movie is going to look like in the end. I'm going to shoot a little bit of it and then edit a little bit of it, which sort of put into words how I've always, I think, made films or wanted to make films. And I think it was really encouraging. I mean, it really, in the literal sense of that word, it made me feel more courageous to make this film that way. So yeah, we would wander off and shoot bat caves in Mallorca and then come back, and the rhythm of always coming back to the arc, I think, was very helpful to that process, because it constantly forced us to sort of peer at what we were doing and contextualize it. And I did end up writing a lot of the narration almost as a sort of working journal, which is why I put in the sort of hokey constant reference to travel journal, But it was my way of saying no, this is just, this is kind of my thinking as we go. And we made the idiotic decision, I mean, I made the idiotic decision to really cling to the chronology of the building of the ark so that nobody appears out of sequence.
I was feeling for you with that
Which is
choice.
so dumb. I mean, so annoying to do that.
But it gave you a constraint. It
Yeah.
gave you a very serious constraint.
And also it gave you structure. And the you know, I think sometimes when watching films with chapters, or when you don't really know how they're structured, apart from, oh my God, how many chapters are there? I need to know at the beginning how many chapters there are. The building of the ark was actually a beautiful structural editorial device, I thought. I also should say to the audience, I know you've already played your part, but if you have any questions, please just raise your hand and we can go for it.
Go in the back with a microphone.
There's one.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna keep filming. I'm coming right at you.
Oh, it's somebody else.
I'm assuming you had to consider this, but do you have any general views about how much to archive and how much to not archive? I mean, just to live your life, just especially with your father's.
20%.
That's it.
No, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I do think it's an interesting thing for each of us to spend some time thinking about. You know, some people allow themselves to be sort of driven mad by it, and other folks allow themselves to just not even think about it at all. I suspect most of us are somewhere in the middle. You know, actively archiving, getting frustrated with ourselves about not archiving, losing things, and I don't know. I suppose I just say we're kind of all in it together, and it's messy, and the universe is doing the exact same thing we are, which is creating records and destroying them. And so, if nothing else, remember that it's definitely not unnatural to be caught in that insanity.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm just curious about what you and Herzog might have discussed. Like, did you talk about relationship between this film and Fitzcarraldo or existentialism? What did you talk about?
Yeah, I mean, we it was perhaps predictable in retrospect that he would be drawn to a film about a guy building a large boat, and one of our first conversations was about whether the boat should be mobile. And he said, he was like, absolutely not. Leave it tethered to the ground. You know, it is just a nightmare to move these things. And I thought that was pretty funny. And then he launched into a sort of tirade about also maritime regulations that I would have to deal with and all this other stuff. And so it was this lovely, sort of vacillating, you know, as an executive producer, half of the advice was, you know, sort of philosophical and cinematic, and half of it was very pragmatic. It was no, don't be a fool. You'd have to, you know, deal with all these other things. But I think, you know, the majority of his interests in the film, as far as I could tell, was really speaking up for Oblivion, for forgetting. And it's part of this, you know, I think a part of his sort of philosophy about 20th century psychotherapy in particular, that he's I think we just should leave things buried. And I think he liked, you know, that's a provocative thing to say in an era where a lot of people are going to therapy and sort of on the heels of the entire 20th century. So, you know, where there's a lot of stuff to think about, you know, where we've come from and what we need to deal with in our pasts, both individually and collectively. So I think he liked the idea of being a little bit of a provocateur with that comment.